And we're live.
Hello! Welcome! We're happy to have you here. Thanks for coming. This is your favorite after show for your favorite live game, a live reality game, survival challenge.
With your favorite yappers.
With your favorite yappers.
We heard feedback that apparently we are in fact yappers, and that could be the most descriptive name for us. And so with that being said, we thought we would invite one of our other favorite yappers along tonight to do some yapping with us.
Welcome,
Miss Taylor.
Oh, hello. I am so honored to be here. I love watching these yappers. And to be classified as a yapper is, it's a highlight. It's right up there.
It's a high honor.
Yeah.
Genuinely.
Right next to drinking a cup of hot sauce. Yeah, it's right up there.
It's up there. Oh, yeah.
Or
That's
catching a fish.
Or catching a fish. Taylor caught her first fish tonight.
I did.
Isn't that exciting?
It was incredible.
I'm going to make Will post a picture in the comments.
Okay, I'm on it.
Maybe.
I went through all the stages of emotion through that one fish, so.
It was good. It was
I feel like
special.
there's a beautiful metaphor in there somewhere that we can compare to today. But
Let us
anyway,
know. Just
today.
let us know.
Here
Let us
we are.
know.
Yeah, today. So by the way, just a couple things. I'm Sam, in case you haven't watched anything up until this point. And this is...
I am Kelsey, otherwise known as the blonde girl from the live stream,
Yeah.
the girl in the yellow shirt. You don't have to remember my name. It's okay.
You do. She's
just
important.
remember I'm the funny one, okay?
Oh.
I'm the one with the puns. No, not to exclude you. I'm excluding her.
Yes, I don't believe in that. So is that... Thank you, Will, for sharing
So,
that
yeah,
photo.
hold on. I'm going to show some of the photos from the...
God.
Taylor catching a fish. So while Will's showing you those photos...
Also, hi, I'm Taylor.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Taylor... Did you not? Did I not?
don't-
I think
well-
I introduced her as Taylor, but
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
But
it's like-
yeah,
If I stopped you from doing that, I'm bad. I'm a bad person.
that's okay. I got
But here we are now, right?
Yeah.
Sam, Kelsey, Taylor. So a little bit about the after show. So obviously we've been doing stuff all day. We've been here for 12 hours now. We're tired. But if you didn't want to watch everything for 12 hours, you can just watch this for the next 45 minutes to an hour or so to get a recap of the entire day of Survival Challenge, a little bit about what we're going to talk about on the show. We had a ton of stuff going on today. We did a bunch of challenges. We saw a lot of interaction between the players. So basically similar to like a podcast that you may listen to, recapping a show that you watch. That's what we're going to do. So we're going to talk about some strengths we saw, some weaknesses we saw in the players, some things that we maybe inferred based on the way that we interpreted the day, just based on what we saw in all of the challenge feeds that you guys have access to on Facebook or YouTube. So anything that we saw, we're going to talk about it. Kelsey may give us a little bit of a behind-the-scenes scoop because she's one of our field producers for Survival Challenge, but 99.99% of the stuff you're going to hear right now is stuff that you could realistically go back on the feeds and see yourself. We're just kind of summarizing it all up for you and giving our interpretation as self-certified survivor or survival challenge rather experts.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit about it. But today is called Reward Day in Survival Challenge lingo, history, lore, if you will. And Reward Day is a big day where nobody goes home on Survival Challenge. Our players work really hard to get here. They fly from across the country, some of them literally from across the world this season, which is crazy. So we want to make sure they get that full Survival Challenge experience before being sent on their merry way and voted out by their peers. So Taylor, as a past season 10, right? Last season, I was like, what are the words? As a last season player, what is Reward Day? What does Reward Day mean? What is the importance of Reward Day? Like, what should they have been doing today?
Ooh, okay, that's a really good question. Reward Day is really important because it's the first time with this group of people that are now your tribe, essentially, because everyone was thrown into their tribes for the first time today. It's the time for you to showcase your abilities as a player. You're building those connections. Like, you have already hoped that you've built some connections with players, because you've had a day, but this is now your tribe. These are your people. These are the ones that eventually you're going to go to a tribal to, or not, but 9 times out of 10, you're going to end up there. So you need to showcase that you are an asset to your team. You need to start building those relationships. You need to also start watching the other tribes, seeing how they work. What is going on? What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? Because eventually things will get shaken up in the game, and now you have to figure out, can you work with them or not? So Reward Day was so for me, it also was a little bit different our season because our stakes, I feel like, were not as high as Reward Day was today.
So true, yeah.
The stakes today were set very high at the top. If you didn't tune in, they were all, when they were divided into their tribes, they were told that on top of playing for items for their camps to make their camp life a little bit better, there was only going to be one tribe safe by the end of the day, and that was the tribe with the most points to avoid going to tribal council, which means they were told that automatically 4 tribes are going to tribal council.
And John did not hold that back. We learned that immediately. I think after the first challenge of the day, he was like, by the way, you're also playing for safety. And like, one tribe, you have a 20% chance of being the tribe that wins at the end of the day? Like, that's crazy. That's
So
bad.
normally reward day is a little bit more chill, but it's like this turned reward day into like still effectively, you know, the ultimate reward was still immunity by the end of the day, and only one tribe got that. And I can't imagine having to weigh the I'm trying to build relationships, have a good time, and compete, but also being stressed about avoiding tribal, especially with these such small groups. We've never started out with such a small tribe. How do you think that is going to affect the players in this game moving forward?
There's nowhere to hide. You know, and I think the big thing about reward day and a lot of the challenges that we saw today was everyone had to participate. Everyone was involved in some way, shape or form. Like, we rarely had any sit-outs because of the fact that you were constantly back to back having to be involved in a step of the challenge, and because of that, you really have to showcase your strengths. And reward day is the thing also about reward day is there's no clear winner. Like, it can be a very tight race. Like, for our season, we were tied. Shout out to Tatsuya and oh gosh, what was it? Kawani, the duck tribe. Quack quack. Going into it, we were tied for second going into the last challenge. Our season, and it was a very tight race, and it was also tight for this season too, but anything can happen because these challenges also push you in different ways, mentally and physically. And we saw that.
I was gonna say we definitely saw that from different tribes, which way it pushed them. And I think just even over the course of the day, it could be only halfway through the day, just the first few challenges really set the tone for how they feel the day is gonna go. And I think some tribes really pushed against that and were like, no, we're still gonna keep going. And then some tribes didn't. So we'll talk about that. Speaking of our small tribes of 5, so we have 5 tribes of 5. So most of you, I'm sure, on the stream yesterday predicted it when John was like, what's going to happen tomorrow? John doesn't talk like that.
Just
I'm
no. Just like
I'm
that.
sorry, I love you. You're so
Just like
great.
that.
I hope he's watching.
I hope he's not.
He's probably not.
He's probably not. He's probably in bed, honestly. So when he was like, what's going to happen tomorrow? All of our tribes were divided up. So we had the challenges that they participated in yesterday, where they slowly got eliminated as they were doing poorly. The final 5 who made it to that last challenge, they were the ones who became the founding members of each of our 5 tribes today. So those 5 people were Ali, Jay, Paul, Elisa, and I was trying to go in order.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I don't remember who the last one was.
Kaylee,
yeah. Kaylee and then Elisa were the 5 people that became those founding members. They were randomly given, or I think they randomly picked up a bag of bandanas, and in that bag, there were like 4 other bandanas of different colors in them. The other players in the game, who are not those 5, were then escorted into the challenge field with a random color of bandana on their arm.
Might we add?
Oh yeah, they were blindfolded.
Like,
Not quite random.
Oh, it wasn't. Yes, no, it wasn't.
So basically, each group of where they were, depending on where they kind of finished. So they were separated in camps by kind of least desirable to most desirable, depending on their challenge performance. And so each group had a color. So some camps had small as 3. Some camps had as many as, I think, 5. And so basically with that whole color option is a way to get all those initial great bonds that you have on night 1 and separate them as much as possible, which is very frustrating as a player. But from a production point of view, it does make sense. Usually that night 1 bond is so strong. So we kind of like to challenge the players to mix it up a little bit and see how they deal with that adversity.
Especially considering that night 1 is 100% going to be their worst night. Like, it's usually the worst night anyways, because you're like going from very clean to very dirty really quickly. But then also the fact that they had to like sit out in the rain.
Yeah.
And some of them had to sit in the rain with absolutely nothing.
No
last
tarps.
night. Like,
I mean,
no tarps,
Misery
no fire.
loves company. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, when you're having a great time, it's all fun and dandy, but there's nothing like the trauma bonding of being out there in the rain together.
Yeah, and there was, I think, a lot of opportunities to create bonds because they started technically in a one world scenario.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
where they sat around not really knowing for what, almost 2 hours of just getting to know each other, and then they were thrown into different groups of different sizes to build upon maybe new relationships, to then get separated completely almost into brand new groups.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of seeds that maybe hopefully some successfully planted, but like you said, a lot can change after first night of trauma bonding without a tarp.
Exactly.
And a day of rewards.
Yeah, when Reward Day was very, very a lot. I guess there was a lot happening, right? So those initial 5 that we talked about created the tribes. They kind of worked together to choose based on the color of bandanas that they had in their hand. They had to go pick someone with that same color of bandana in the lineup. So they were only allowed to choose certain people. So they may have had their eye on somebody. They may have made a great relationship with somebody that, you know, during the first set of challenges, and too bad, so sad, you can't be with that person because they don't have the right bandana on their arm. And those bandanas were randomly chosen in bags for them.
And
It was kind of random, it kind of wasn't. That's really the point.
kind of like a schoolyard pick, but again, you know, some people were actually talking a little bit.
There was a good amount of collaboration.
There was a good amount of collaboration of picking individuals, and, you know, it was very interesting to watch.
Yeah. So let's get talking about what these tribes are. Will has some cool graphics for us. So he's going to show you the pictures while I say their names out loud. Our first tribe was Tawa. Tawa was the yellow tribe today. Their founding member, not captain, they literally were just the first person on the tribe, was Ali. And then we had Luke M, Val, Kat, and Chris on that tribe. So before we kind of go through all the tribes, did you guys see it just overall, like, course of the day? Did anyone stick out to you, or did you remember anything about anyone on this tribe, positive or negative?
Luke M really actually, I think, showcased that they are very well rounded in challenges. They definitely contributed to every challenge in a very positive way that helped their tribe succeed. You know, the last challenge with the balancing, they really were able to kind of bring a comeback up there where they were able to, you know, get very close to winning. Did they? I don't know if they. I can't remember. Did they win?
They did not.
They did not win that challenge, but it was.
They finished.
They finished. They finished.
I'm pretty. Oh, they didn't.
No,
they didn't finish.
they didn't
actually
finish.
didn't. But
Scratch
Luke
that.
did do well in that
But
challenge.
Luke did do well. But I think Luke M is showing that they are, I think, on top of also being very socially liked, because when the tribes were hanging out, you know, you could see them talking to their tribe and really just kind of getting the morale going. They also showcase that they are a physical threat as well.
Yeah, for sure. Kelsey, did you see anything quick throughout the day?
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought you were just going with Taylor, but let's see. For the yellow tribe,
Any like overarching ones?
honestly, no, not really. I think you definitely hit the nail on the head there with Luke. He seems like somebody that could definitely stand out as a leader, if you will, or you know, just like somebody who likes to take initiative and direction, and sometimes that translates from the challenges to then communication at camp and the vibe of the tribe, if you will. So I definitely see him being somebody as a key cog on that wheel.
Yeah, I think it's interesting too because Luke is also the youngest one on that tribe by far, by like probably a good 6 or 7 years.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting because usually people, whether it's a lot younger or a lot older, if you're kind of like out of that
You're the outlier.
age, if you're the outlier, then typically you have a much harder time connecting with the group. So that's, you know, and who knows, who's to say?
Yeah.
But he looks like he's doing great.
Yeah.
So great job, Luke.
Yeah, all right, Luke. All right, so we got Coco up next. That is our purple tribe. Our founding member was Jay. And then we had Owen, Declan, KP, and Lee. So for this tribe, Taylor, what'd you see today? Anybody stand out, positive or negative for you?
I think, well, they were all a pretty well-rounded tribe, all of them. I think they all really showcased their strengths. And, you know, Lee being our oldest player, definitely, you know, held their own on a lot of those challenges that were, you know, I think a lot of endurance challenges that were, you know, like the planks. Like
Oh,
that
yeah.
to me was I was tired watching them.
Yeah.
I was like,
Always.
we got to go back in again. Okay. You know, I think you know, someone, I think by the end of the day also you can start to see the fatigue set in.
Yeah.
Declan, I think we definitely saw that a little bit with the last challenge of them just really getting frustrated with themselves, of wanting to, knowing the stakes of tribal, because I think if they'd won that challenge, they might have potentially been tied depending on the other placements for first place. So they were leading at one point.
Yeah.
They had a solid lead, and so those are the key moments where you want to keep your cool. You want to be able to take a chance to take a second to breathe, but in the heat of the moment, when you've been going all day and those stakes are set, because SC knows how to set some stakes. You know, that's when you have that panic moment, and I think you know. They had a little bit of that moment set in, but overall I think that tribe is very well rounded, and I think going into tomorrow they're going to be able to progress, and hopefully we'll see what happens.
Yeah. I think I'm excited about Jay on that tribe. I think Jay really showed up strong today, and a lot of the challenges, I think that their tribe looked to them a lot of the time to almost take the lead. I don't even think it was something that they initially took on. I think it was like we trust Jay in this way to direct us in the challenge. So I'm curious to know if that'll be a positive or negative thing, or if that's even a correct read on my end.
And you even said the opposite. They kept themselves very calm and cool, collecting those moments. Yeah, I remember you mentioning that.
I also remember saying that on the stream. Yeah, they were so chill. Yeah. All right, on to Wupon. We had our founding member of Paul with Ned, Luke R, Amelia, and Griffin. So Amelia's our lone girly pop on that tribe. And I will say, the opposite of Jay, Paul was not calm, cool, collected all day. Paul is just this ball of energy, fire, enthusiasm, whether it's good or bad. He has energy, and he's moving that energy around.
And words are coming out.
And words are coming out constantly. And I love it. I know Paul personally. I love Paul. He's a wonderful, wonderful guy. I am a little bit worried though, because sometimes especially when you're calling in a challenge or something, your energy, the way you speak, is going to translate to your tribe. And so when you are like, okay, Kelsey, now do this, right, and you're using that chaotic voice, your team is going to be like, oh, we're in such a rush, I'm so anxious now because of the voice that's being spoken to me. And I think that was one, especially I think it was the 6th challenge of the day, that was one clear distinction I saw between Paul and Jay especially. But did you notice anything, Taylor, about any other people on Wupon?
No, I think that was a really, really good point to make out. That's very important. But I mean, like we already talked about them, but you know, Amelia being really holding their own on a tribe with all, you know, male presenting players, and also like height difference. It was very
so
cute.
Little.
It was very cute. She's so small. Like, please protect at all costs. But I think they did a good job of also listening, like stepping back, which I think will be a huge, to helping them move forward, because they're letting the bigger personalities, play, and they're not being seen as a threat. And I think that's smart. I don't know if it's intentional, but
I imagine that it is, because I remember Amelia's casting video, or in her like intro video that's available on YouTube as of yesterday at 7 p.m. She expected to be underestimated because of her size, because of her stature, right? Because of being a woman. And so now her being on a tribe with all these men and saying like, yeah, like what do you want to do? Like how is this? I think it's completely intentional. Right. I think she knows what she's doing.
I agree. So I'm excited.
I am too. On to the next. We have Weeyaya. The orange. Oh, okay.
And you might start to hear some fireworks because it's
Happy 4th of July.
Happy 4th.
So on that orange tribe, we had our founding member of Kaylee, and then we had Ryan, Kelsey, Kyle, and Nicole on that tribe. Nicole, one of our other smaller contestants on this season. Anything about Weeyaya that you noticed, Taylor?
Oh, okay. Also another really solid, like, well-rounded tribe as a whole. And they did seem to work together really well too, I want to say, at a lot of key moments. I'm trying to think, like, I think Kaylee has had to step in as kind of like that ringleader, I think I noticed throughout the day. I don't know if they wanted to intentionally, but it did seem like they became more of a vocal voice with a lot of the strategic planning behind some challenges, and coming up with unique ways to to maneuver them. You know, I think they're the ones who stuck their block in their buff.
That was so weird, but
it worked.
But it worked.
It worked.
It was so weird, but so innovative.
Yeah,
I loved it.
I think it's like little to no surprise though that we are seeing this emerging trend of the players that competed really well individually on the first day are then kind of naturally, whether it's intentional or unintentional, kind of sliding into that like leader role of their groups. Clearly that means that they're good competitors if they earned that position.
Right.
And so I think it is oftentimes a blessing and a curse to be viewed as a leader, because if you're doing great, yeah, sure, that's awesome, but then you're going to be viewed as a threat. If your tribe is not doing good, hey, this is your fault type of thing. So I am interested to see how those 5 especially do and how that will affect their games in the long run.
Especially because they all had really solid, like, I mean, when you have 4 tribes going, you know, it's really hard to pinpoint like a weakness when they were off by 1 or 2 points going into the final challenge.
Yeah.
So, you know, it could be as simple as someone said, oh, the fire went out because of you, like, you're the vote. Like, it's going to be very interesting, like you said, to figure out what is going to be the leading cause behind these first vote outs.
Absolutely, yeah. I think Orange seemed like the most strategic tribe to me overall. I feel like they were the ones that were often taking less time to socialize with each other and more time to strategize about the challenge. They were looking at it ahead of everyone else.
They're giving winner energy. Like, I know they didn't even end up winning the day, but I don't know, something about them. I don't know if it's the shade of orange, but like,
it's winter orange.
It is.
Winter orange.
It's Anthony Dumas orange.
Anthony was on Kia.
Oh, amazing. I feel like I remember seeing him in an orange shirt.
I like winter orange.
But anyway.
I'm glad it wasn't.
Okay. We need to stop mentioning.
Kia is my tribe, so I like a winner from my tribe, so I feel better about it. We had teal. Not that it matters. All right, anyways.
Teal.
Teal.
That's where we are now.
Mint. Here we go.
Okay,
Look at
so
that
maybe, you know what, and I
transition.
love that for them because, you know, they had a rough day. But who knows? Maybe we will yet again have another teal winner and they can emerge from the ashes. So, Taylor.
I will say, well, the people on the tribe first before we talk about who they are or what they did today. Elisa was our founding member, then Nick, Dan, Aaron, and Leah. Taylor.
Taylor's
not on the tribe.
Not on the tribe. Man, Lonan, they are, I want to say they had like the most spirit. Like they really found their group by the end of the day. But man, did they struggle. I mean, there's no way about it. They didn't get a point until
Fifth
challenge.
Out of 7.
Out of 7.
I will say they did get the loudest cheer of the entire day when they got that one point. Let me tell you, the whole field erupted for that.
And they did. Thank you, Will. That means so much because it just shows that you can't give up in these moments, knowing that they probably were going to go to tribal. They also have the tallest person playing, 6'9", 6'8", Nick, which I thought that maybe his height would be an asset in a lot of these challenges, but it didn't seem to come into play as much as I thought it would. Which was a little unfortunate, but you know, you could see a lot of the morale. It was a little hard, you know, looking because the morale did drop. You know, where other tribes were standing and talking, they were doing a lot of sitting, and you know.
And I mean, it's hard not to, right? Like you come out here. I think I mentioned it on the stream earlier, but you come out here with this very clear vision of what you expect your experience to be like, and not just in terms of like the twists and what happens and everything, but you're like, I'm gonna win challenges. I'm gonna vote people out. I'm gonna be really successful. You don't come out here thinking I'm gonna be first boot. I'm gonna lose, you know. And so to see them just after those first couple challenges where they scored 0. You just slowly watch throughout the day their morale drop and drop and drop. And even after, like they did get a big cheer after that first challenge, but they still got 1 point the first time that they scored a point in the challenge. And there was a little bit of happiness, but what I really saw happiness from them was the challenge, I think it was after that, where they came in 2nd place. And then they were like, oh no, we can do things, we can do this together. But at that point, it was far too late for them to assume they were not going to be going to tribal council. I think they had pretty much understood themselves by maybe like the 2nd challenge that they were going to be going. Because I mean, yes, there was a lot of flexibility, right? Like we saw our other 4 tribes within a couple of points of each other, but once you get like an 8-point deficit, that means you're going to be needing to win back-to-back challenges to be able to make up that difference.
And I want to give them though like a huge credit for that mental game that they played, because usually at that point you see a lot of people just not able to kind of pick themselves up, but they did the opposite. They were able to pick themselves up and finish strong. You know, instead of kind of just allowing that, you know, flat baseline that they set for themselves, carry them throughout the end. So that shows that that group has heart. They've got tenacity. They've got that mental game to kind of keep pushing. So I hope that after this, once they're able to get through Tribal, they just chalk it up, because it's a new challenge, it's a new day, and you cannot let the energy of today carry over, and that's so important. It's so hard when you're sleeping with nothing and you have maybe 5 beans in your stomach.
Yeah. It's gonna be a toughie tomorrow, but they can do it. Alrighty, Taylor, any final thoughts or feelings, predictions about tomorrow at all that you want to share?
Oh gosh, predictions. You know, this is such a really well-rounded cast of players. I really do think. You know, it was really hard to kind of spot so many, you know, weaknesses on the tribe. So I think going into Tribal, I don't know what to expect tomorrow, which makes it exciting.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of them are very eager and hungry to kind of get more into the game. I think they've got their you know, their dirt on their skin, and they've you know slept out there in the macomb with the lovely, you know, bugs that are out there, and I think they're ready to kind of get further into this game and see where it takes them.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited. I can't wait. Honestly, I'm rooting for so many people. So you know, don't ask me to pick one, because all of them, I'm there.
Right.
So yeah.
It's a great problem to have, though.
It's a great problem to have.
Honestly, so true.
You know, and I want people to prove me wrong. Like I said, I love a good underdog. So of course I'm gonna be, you know, secretly fighting for Teals. But you know,
Absolutely.
at the same time, they are all so capable. So I'm excited.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Appreciate you for having me. Yeah.
All
I
right.
hope you get to go enjoy some fireworks this evening.
Yeah, that or a shower.
Or maybe
Yeah.
that.
You know, maybe.
We are all
Maybe
a little
wash
bit
your
sweaty.
hands. You know, you
You
did
know.
have your hand in a fish earlier.
I did.
Which I very much so encourage. So.
That is true.
First time. Baby's
Peer
first
pressure.
fish. Baby's
Baby's
first
first
fish.
fish.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Alrighty. Kelsey and I are going to get a little bit more into like the in-depth of what the challenges were. I will say, if you're like, wow, Sam, Kelsey, I actually don't care anymore, I just want to know, we do have our daily recap document. It is literally just a Google Doc that I have been entering, and Taylor and Isaiah and I have all been entering like the events of the day into. You can see who got first, second, third, fourth, and fifth in each challenge. Also a couple sentence summary of each of the challenges. I'm going to tell Will right now to pin that in the comments for you, so that way you can find it. It's also just on the graphic that we made at the beginning of the season. I think it's bit.ly/survival challenge 11.
Currently,
Will's nodding.
Pinned
So
on the Instagram story.
Oh, thank you, yeah.
And I mean, the Instagram has like little updates. Basically, if you want to know what happened today,
You can
you're
find it.
gonna be able to find it. And if you
wanna-
want to hear us yap about it, hang around for a little
We'll
bit.
be yapping. We'll be
You know,
yapping.
We like to think we make it fun.
I think we do.
I
I'm
have
going
a
to
lot
stand
of
by
fun.
that. I had
Yeah.
a good time.
Me
I'm
too.
happy to be here. So, here we go.
Anyway.
The first challenge of the day, we get divided into the tribes. Everyone's like, oh, I'm in a tribe now. 5 tribes of 5. They're happy, they're excited, and we go into a plank walk challenge. I don't remember what it's called. You can look it up on the document. But basically, it's like a community plank walk. So if you've ever seen those like 2x4s, ropes sticking out of them, you put 1 foot on each, you hold onto the rope, and you have to work as a team. There's like 5
Almost
slots.
Like
team skis.
Not ski. Cross country skiing, is that a thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, they're kind of going.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Sure.
Sure.
Imagine like a ski, but 5 people are on it, right?
Yeah.
So they're just whoop, whoop, and they're going along like a specific path. They have to pick up blocks and like sandbags along the way, pick up all the stuff, turn around, go back, stack up their blocks on a table, and then use the sandbags to knock over those blocks.
Simple as that, right?
So easy.
I feel
It
like-
wasn't.
No,
It
not at
wasn't.
all. Because like most challenges in this game, it comes down to communication. And considering some of these people are basically just interacting for potentially the
first
first time, they don't know how to communicate right after
And that was very clear when literally John said, go! And they were all like, pick up your right foot! And it was just like, Kelsey's foot goes up, and then mine goes up 3 seconds later. Like, it was a disaster zone for probably about the first 30 to 45 seconds from every tribe. Like, none of them got the hang of it right away until they got a really clear picture of like, 1, 2, 3, up, 1, 2, 3, down. You know, like, I think they underestimated just how much communication was going to go
Right.
into the team skis.
And just like taking your time. I feel like so often the best thing that you can do in these challenges is slow down to speed up.
Yes.
It's not going to do you any good to rush out of the gate with all that energy and effort if somebody is just going to fall over. And not to mention that it rained quite a bit this morning, so it was very wet and slippery. So very often we saw foots falling off, they're having to go back, and that definitely ended up having a really big impact on the result.
Yeah, it really did. We did see some people, again, start to come through and shine a little bit as people who were really clearly communicating with their team about, like, okay, the 1, 2, 3 up, the 1, 2, 3 down, all that stuff. I do remember this was one of the challenges where I first saw Luke really taking command of his tribe. I think the final thing at the end, though, was watching people throw those sandbags. We saw so many different strategies. Some people were switching the thrower out left and right, but there were a lot of tribes. I think specifically Lonan really struggled to find a solidified thrower for their tribe, which made them end up eventually getting last in this challenge. I think that they all really struggled to find that center. Nick did great at throwing, but he didn't throw until about 10 seconds before the challenge ended because I think they were focusing on other throwers. So I think that's something to be said about challenges like this, is if it's not working, like, you can try and fix it, but you ultimately have to give people a chance. You can't constantly be switching things out and be like, oh, you didn't get the first throw, let's pick somebody else. You know, it's a really fine balance of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. I think especially it's just like hard when you lose the first one because it sets a precedent, right? Like, you know, sometimes how these days go, it's not just physical ability or puzzle ability, but sometimes it's just like if you lose once or twice early on, you kind of get complacent in that energy of, oh, well, we're just going to lose again, versus the other people are living off the high of winning, so they're feeling great, calm, clear, collected, and performing well. And so it was pretty tough to see them kind of stay on that losing track for a while.
So in that first challenge, we saw Wapoon, the Coral Tribe, come in first, then Tawa, yellow, Coco, purple, Wiyaya, orange, and then Lonan, the Bint Tribe, in last. Any other feelings about that one?
No, it was super fun.
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to do it. I don't know. I feel like that would be a really fun one to do.
Dream
because
team, yeah.
Knowing us, we'd be like yelling at each other, but still doing it in an effective way.
We would do so well at that challenge.
Let's race Trav and Trav tomorrow.
I think we should. I will say for that one, I really like that we started with that challenge because it's very clear the only thing you really needed to do well was communication, and it forced them to, like, really clearly figure out some tribal, like, lines, to figure out some tribal communication immediately after, again, just meeting each other. So I think that was a perfect first challenge, because if we would have put it at the end of the day, they would have done a lot better, frankly, because they would have known each other better.
Absolutely.
So doing it first was like, we are agents of chaos, and we will do this. So it was fun. Our second one was held up at the bar. I have it pulled up now, so I know their names. This one was, we had 3 members of a tribe completing a survivor puzzle at a table, but they were only allowed to work on their puzzle while the other 2 members of their tribe were successfully holding the metal bars that we used yesterday in the Hold On Challenge. So something I thought was so interesting during this one is that there was one member on every tribe that participated in the Hold On Challenge the day before, and that's where the metal rod is in the middle of the 2 metal bars, and you have to pull them out to hold them taut. And every single tribe had that person holding the bar to begin with on their tribe, except for Coral. Paul was the only person who had done that challenge before who did not hold the bar to begin with. Instead, he went and worked on the puzzle. Eventually, he swapped out, I think, at some point, but I was really interested to see that he didn't initially do that, knowing that he could do it, and he did pretty well at it the night before.
I feel like if there's one thing Paul's gonna do, it's be a little different, be the star. He's like, oh, let me get that puzzle.
Yeah.
And we love him for it. And they ended up not quite winning, but getting second, so it must have paid off well enough. But yeah, that one was interesting because, again, it's not just one person standing there holding it. It's like if me and Sam were holding it together. And so it's a lot less about strength, a lot more about communication, coordination, focus, and then, of course, puzzle solving ability.
Yeah, because they had to stop solving the puzzle if the metal bar ever dropped, and they had to be the ones to reset it for the metal bar holders. So the metal bar holders were literally like hugging each other, trying to stay together to like pull these bars apart, which I thought was really cute. Getting to know each other. And this was also one of the hardest puzzles, I think, in survival challenges, like repertoire,
history,
and
yeah.
their history. It's an incredibly difficult puzzle. I was trying to find Devin during the puzzle from season 8 of Survival Challenge because he bodied this puzzle and he finished it way before the entire teams did here in his season. And I think he's the only one I've ever seen do it really quickly ever on their first time. Like, obviously, if you do the puzzle enough, you can do it quickly, but I've done it multiple times and it still takes me 20 plus minutes every time by myself. So
not a good time.
It's very, very hard. So to see, honestly, a lot of the tribes complete it decently quickly, in my opinion, I was very impressed with their puzzle solving prowess, especially considering they had to swap people out occasionally to go and hold a stupid bar in the background. So come on, John. Kelsey alluded to it, but basically our results for that challenge were first place went to Orange Wiyaya. I feel like I could never say that genuinely, like seriously, like Wiyaya. Like I feel like I always had to like add a little, you know, exactly. Second place was Wapoon, which was Coral. Third place was Cocoa Purple. Fourth place was Tawa Yellow, and again fifth place was Lonin Blue. Alrighty. Moving on. Third challenge was called Blind Mice, and it was also our alumni challenge of the season. So if you're new to Survival Challenge, you don't know this, we have an alumni challenge every single season where we bring back Survival Challenge alumni to compete in the challenge, and if you beat the alumni, you get like an extra reward of some sort. There was a time for many seasons when beating the alumni was hard, and it is not true anymore. We've gotten beat the last like 4 seasons in a row. I'm pretty sure, myself included. My team lost 2.
I was saying, all
you
the way
beat
back
us,
in
right?
all the way back in my day, my tribe.
You.
Yeah, thank you.
Flex. Okay.
We were the first tribe to ever beat an alumni, but like we were the only ones. You guys still finished before everybody else. And then
slowly we've just started to lose a lot more.
Yeah,
often,
last
which
year
is
was
fine,
like the worst experience ever for me personally. But you know what? It's fine. We live, we learn, we grow. And also I think it's worth noting, in the past there would usually be a lot more of the repeat elements, and there was no surprise why the alumni did well, because a lot of times they had done it before.
Done a similar challenge. Yeah.
Now specifically, I feel like, I don't know if this is an Evan thing, but he makes sure that like nobody's kind of done that element before, and it is proving difficult for the alumni now to compete as well as they used to.
That's very true. Survival Challenge is a creature of habit as an organization. We do repeat. I mean, obviously we have limited space. We're not an actual, we're not Survivor. So we have limited space. We're repeating with challenge elements, which is why it's so important for you to watch the feeds at home, because then you can see a lot of the things that you may do eventually on your season of Survival Challenge when you apply in January. So it was definitely a toughie. But basically what this challenge was there was a puzzle in the middle, and there were 2 versions of the puzzle. You could like attack it from either side of the table. And that table is in the middle of the challenge field, and then spraying out from the table in like kind of like a sun stream. Imagine like sun rays coming out from it, or a clock, however you want to say it, in a straight line out from it were like telephone lines, like a firework. Telling, but it was like a little sun spray, firework, whatever, lines of each of the individual tribes, and basically one person, all the people who could communicate about the puzzle were blindfolded, and so one person could feel the puzzle on the table in front of them, and then they had to relay information about the puzzle telephone style back through their team, and then one final blindfolded teammate had to complete it on the ground. They had a caller to make sure they didn't run into each other from their tribe, but that was pretty much it. We saw a really early victory in this challenge by Wiyaya. They crushed it. They did it so quickly. They must have had really good communication. And I think the number one thing that hurt a lot of our tribes in this challenge was that some of them tried to memorize the entire puzzle and repeat it back all in one go. And you cannot do that with this style of puzzle. There were 6 different pieces on the board, and little did they know there were 2 dummy pieces in their individual piles. So if you tried to do all of them at once, it was going to be really, really difficult.
And again, you would know that if you watch, because we have used those pieces before, and I do believe those dummy pieces ended up making a difference. I know there was 1 or 2 tribes that were getting like the sword and the like additional like plus symbol confused. And it's tough. I think it's one of those things that, especially once the panic starts to set in, that you realize one other team like got it already, that the nerves of this, we always say that like Survival Challenge makes you dumb in the sense that when you have those nerves competing in those challenges, you kind of just lose focus and get a little frazzled, and you know, we even saw one alumni team not even finish.
Not finished today.
Yeah.
Something extra special though, first time ever that we've done this, is we did have a loved ones team. So we have our loved ones, our audience members who get to come and watch their people. And today we had a loved one from Chris, a loved one from Elisa, one from Kelsey, one from, I'm missing someone, Aaron, one from Aaron, and then we also have Hannah, one of our field producers, her mom participated in the Loved Ones Challenge, which was so exciting. They struggled a little bit, but also they didn't know they were coming out here to play. They just came out to watch their loved one, and I was so excited to see them all so eager to participate, because now it's just like a mutual, shared experience that they have with their loved one. Like, oh my gosh, that challenge, we both did it. This is how I interpreted it. This is how you interpreted it. So I think it'll just be really fun for them to be able to like have that conversation when their loved ones leave the game eventually, whether that's because they win or
I think it's such a unique experience
it's
too.
So
Like I don't know if I've ever seen another. I mean, I know I have not seen another live game do that, and it's something that I feel like the show, obviously the show proper has done in the past, and so it will for sure be a fun little memory or a fun way for them to kind of get that player-like view, even if it was just for a little bit.
Yeah. So we had Wiaya in first, and then second place was Wapoon, third place was Tawa, fourth place Coco, and then fifth place ended up being the alumni number 1. We let the challenge go on for 5 minutes after fifth place was claimed, just to see if any of the remaining tribes could finish, or if Lonan could beat the second alumni tribe. Unfortunately, they weren't able to finish, so Lonan alumni tribe number 2 and the loved ones didn't finish within the elapsed time. But that's alright, because they all had a good time, and that's all that matters. Challenge number 4, stop, drop, and roll. This one incorporated a really classic element of survival challenge, something we've used a lot in the past, which are 2 long planks with little like rods on the end, I would say handles almost, with a hole in the middle. So what you have to do with those planks is that the first player of the tribe had to run down to the sand pit and dig up a ball in a bag. They had to run it back to their tribe, untie it, and give their tribe the ball. Then the remaining 4 contestants on the tribe had to hold the planks on either end, kind of like in a big X, and they had to roll the ball from one end of the plank to the other, keeping it on. And once they made it and touched both sides of the pole, they had to then do a live transition to drop that ball from the top plank through the hole in the middle onto the bottom plank. And then they had to roll it and touch both sides as well. There was also a point in the middle where they had to like actually physically pass over and under each other as well. So the top plank couldn't just stay on top the whole time. Once it dropped down, once the ball dropped down, then they had to get that top plank onto the bottom. It was just a lot of maneuvering, a lot of rolling, and it was chaotic because we saw Purple, who was the tribe that was the last to retrieve their ball from the sand pit, ended up being the first tribe to finish because they wasted no time rolling that ball. Sometimes, again, there's the detriment of being too slow in Survivor, like, oh, we have to take our time, this is going to be really, really hard. And honestly, that challenge it's not as hard as you anticipate it being. So we saw some tribes going really, really, really slow and steady, and they did it well, but it took them so much longer, and Purple was like, oh no, we're going. And they yeeted, and they came out and won the challenge.
Yeah, I feel like Purple is a tribe that has a lot of intensity, a lot of energy. It's like they bring it, and when they do well, they do really well. And, when they don't do quite as well, you can, like, feel that intensity there. And, as a big, a competitor myself, I can definitely appreciate that. But they are a fun tribe to watch compete for sure.
Absolutely. I noticed that specifically Wiaya was one of the tribes that was like the exact opposite. Coco was chaotic energy, chaotic good, and Wiaya was very, very like, okay, we're gonna go as slow as possible. We're not gonna drop this ball. And I think they maybe dropped it once or twice. Like they really like locked in, but they did it just so slow and steady wins the race that they ended up getting second place in that challenge. Then we saw third place to Wapoon, fourth place to Tawa, and fifth place to Lonan. And I will say one of the things I noticed most about this challenge was, unfortunately, it just seemed like Lonan didn't listen to the instructions of the challenge, didn't understand the instructions of the challenge, and didn't ask, because there were multiple times when I think it was Elisa was like, yes, we won, we did it. And then their caller was like, no, you didn't win, you didn't do it, and had to re-explain the rules to them a couple of times. And I think that's the biggest thing is John goes over the rules, he asks for questions, and you really have to be paying attention during those times. It's so easy to kind of get ahead of yourself and start to over-strategize of like, how are we going to do this challenge, rather than listening to those maybe specific rules that John has. But that part is so important and cannot be overlooked. And I think that were a few times when Lonan may have done that today.
Yeah, and I think with that, it's really frustrating, right? And it's hard because when you, goodness, it feels like it's on the property. When you feel that frustration, it's like, where are you directing that? Are you directing it inward, outward to your team, outward to other factors? And I do think that came into play just a little bit.
Yeah.
With that frustration spilling over. I think particularly maybe a little bit from Aaron. And it's hard because like with that frustration, like, you know, there's only 5 people in the tribe. It can be the smallest of small things that ends up being the reason that, you know, you could end up being the person going home. But that's why this game is so hard.
Yeah. No, it really is. And again, when you're kind of like down in morale too, like if your team, any of these teams, right, when you don't do well in a specific challenge, you're going to look critically back at that challenge and be like, A, what did I do to contribute to maybe that not great result or that win, whatever it ended up being, and what did the rest of my team do? And you're kind of like taking stock of that in the back of your head, because if anyone on your team is reacting a certain type of way to that loss, that's something you're going to take note of as well, because you got to make sure that even if things are going horribly in Survivor, you can't be the one to blame it on them. People take down the morale. Like, it's hard because it's like you want to do your best, and if you ever feel like you aren't doing your best, like I'm my own worst critic, right? And so it's so hard to keep up that morale.
Especially when they thought they had done it, right? Like, they thought they completed it, and then when they didn't, it's just, so crushing.
That one hurt, yeah. Challenge number 5 was Sure Shot, and this was Lonan's victory lap. They did it. They finally scored a point this first challenge, so we were super excited for them with that. The way this challenge worked is that the tribes were divided into a group of 3 and a group of 2. The group of 3 had to use bamboo poles, 3 bamboo poles, to jump. I imagine.
We gotta get out of here soon.
I was like,
the wildlife is starting to come alive.
A giant fish just jumped out of the water. What I imagine was giant, because it made a big splash. They took 3 bamboo poles, and they had to carry a ball individually over to the land bridge in the middle of the ponds, and then shoot the ball into a basket that was floating in the water. And they had to repeat that 4 times, and they had to get a ball in each of 4 different baskets. I think that this one, every time I see a challenge like this, I think this is a hero challenge. It's where one person is probably going to shoot all those baskets for their team, and they're going to be the one that really gets celebrated and high-fived. And something I really appreciated was that for Lonan, I think it was Dan in this challenge. I think that he was their hero. He was the one that was making those baskets, was the one that finally scored them that point. And it didn't seem like the other 2 people that were like helping him get the balls to like the correct area were interested in throwing. So it was really, really his. I'm sorry. The fireworks are getting louder. It's like literally like the soldiers are approaching from the back of the property, and we are just sitting here waiting for them until we see the whites of their eyes. All that to be said, I was really happy for Dan. It seemed like he had a really big hero moment there. And honestly, on a tribe that's like not doing as great, like a hero moment looks different, right? A hero moment is like, thank God, Dan, you finally won us a challenge. Versus on another tribe, maybe like Tawa, who did really well in this challenge because Luke sunk a lot of their balls very, very quickly. For them, it might look a little bit different because now it's like, oh, Luke, you are a hero in this challenge.
Like, I'm clocking you.
You won this challenge, and I can see you're a good competitor. So I think it's 2 very different vibes depending on how that tribe is doing that day.
Yeah, and that's what makes Survivor so hard. It's like you can do the same thing. Like, Dan, Luke, you're doing the same thing, but depending on the situation you're in, one can make you a hero in the positive light, and one can make you a hero in like the negative, like threat light.
Scary light.
I do want to just take a minute to really give like Dan some praise. I think that he is somebody that really just seemed like, and you know what, to be fair, all of Lonan seemed like for the most part handling the lows of the losses really well, but Dan just seems specifically like somebody who is staying really high-spirited and calm, cool, and collected, and you know, maybe that is a reflection of why he was able to get those balls in and do really well. So I think he's doing great, and I just wanted to give him a little shout out.
I noticed that from Elisa too. I feel like when she was coming back in between the challenges, like she was still hoot and holler and having a good time with the audience, and I think that kind of energy is something the other players will feed off of. So I'm interested to see if she's able to keep up that energy tomorrow too. For the rest of that challenge, we saw again Tawa getting first place by quite a good margin, honestly, and then Coco was second place, Wapoon with third, Lona with fourth, and then Weeyaya was the one to not finish. I know that they had a few people throwing for Weeyaya. I don't think they could quite settle on who's their best, shooter for those nets. But I did notice this one particularly, we had to give a big break after this challenge because the people who are not carrying the balls and shooting the baskets were just treading water, retrieving the missed throws. And it's exhausting. Treading water in survival challenge is so exhausting because this lake, I don't know, the water just feels thicker. It just does. There are evil fish in there. Like, it's a whole task. So our water treaders, I give you a lot of praise because that was not for me.
Yeah, no.
Did not.
Absolutely not. Every time that we had to get in the lake or pond in my season, I cried.
It was not fun. All right, so 2 more challenges for the day. We had 7 total. Our 6th one was called Disconnect 4. We had another blindfolded challenge. We really like keeping them in the dark, literally. Oh, no, not me. I can't do the buttons. She's rubbing off on me in a terrible way. Get her out of here. So Disconnect 4. Actually, no, let's get out of here. We did it again. Disconnect 4, essentially one tribe member was blindfolded. The other 4 tribe members had to kind of surround them on these different plates on a table. And they had to direct that blindfolded tribe member to pick up some different cubes that would eventually make a stacked puzzle. That stacked puzzle was 4 cubes that were all multicolored, and they had to create a puzzle that was 4 different colors on each side. So basically each face of the cube showed a different color. This challenge, I think Evan called it graph theory. I don't know. Evan's a lot smarter than me. He makes a lot of the stuff that we do here. Evan said, if you know graph theory, you can do this challenge statistically. Burr, 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 burr. And I said, okay, Evan. But he said, mostly it's just a lot of luck, and hopefully that was a really big one. Did you see that in the stream, Will?
No.
No? Okay.
The players out there, I know that I am. I mean, they should know that they're safe too. But it's we are here with phones and cars and people, and they're just out there in the dark. Hopefully they're okay.
They're brave
anyway,
and cool. It's okay.
Yeah, they wouldn't be out here if they weren't.
brave and cool.
People.
That's very true.
But yeah, Evan, people don't know how to do math.
Yeah.
I mean, they do.
They don't know what graph theory is.
I know how to do this puzzle, and I tried to do the whole math thing, couldn't figure it out. If you want the tip, it's just finding the 2 that have the colors on the top and bottom, putting those top and bottom, and then you figure it out from there.
So save this video, play that back next year before you come out, okay?
Shoot me a message if that didn't make sense, but if you want the math, go to Evan. If you want the spatial reasoning,
there we go. But basically this challenge, if you don't know how to do it, is a lot of guess and check, because you can have 3 of the bottom cubes correct, and then the 4th one doesn't work, and you have to start all over again. So it can be really, really frustrating, and this was one of the challenges I mentioned when Taylor was here, that I really saw Jay staying calm, cool, collected for their tribe, was really giving clear instruction to their cube handler, because the cube handler still stayed blindfolded after they had retrieved all the cubes. I noticed them really step up to direct them well. Paul also directed well, but gave a lot more anxious energy when directing. However, I was really impressed that Ned, who was their cube handler, really was still asking a lot of questions and making sure that he was doing things correctly, which I think almost calmed Paul down a bit in his anxious energy. And then I think I'm looking at the tribes in my head. The middle tribe as well, Weeyaya. Ryan also did really well being the cube handler. His tribe wasn't giving as explicit instruction. They were kind of turn the cube, and he was like, which way would you like me to turn the cube? Do you want to do it this way? Is this what you mean? And he was asking a lot of clarifying questions. So I think his communication skills really helped their tribe out during the challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really tough puzzle if you don't know any of the ways to go about it.
Yeah.
And adding the layer of blindfoldedness and the communication on top of it. I don't envy them.
Yeah, no. Yeah. But this was a really big win for Lonan. They did not come in first place, but they did come in second. So we saw Tawa finishing first, then Lonan, then Coco in third, Wapoon, and then Weeyaya did not finish this challenge. They unfortunately were last. Our final challenge of the day was Steady As You Go. This one is a classic survival challenge, survival challenge rather. This one we've done it as an individual immunity challenge, we've done it as a tribal immunity challenge. It's where you're basically stacking up blocks one by one on a really rickety table that's attached to a rope. So you have to go in, pull the rope, make sure the table stays steady, place the block on it, and then slowly ease up on the rope as you back towards your table, transition the rope to the next member of your tribe, and then they go out and they're stacking 2 blocks and they're coming back, and then 3 blocks and 4 and 5. So this one, I was really interested in how they line themselves up, because the first way you can line yourself up is you can line up based on how well you think you're going to do at it. How good are you at balancing something, right? How much do you know the strategy of the challenge? And then I also noticed that some tribes really went short person, tall person, short person, tall person when they were lining people up, and I think that could have been a detriment as well, because if you're the goal of this challenge is to keep the rope as taut as possible. You don't want any slack in that rope, and as Troisian taught us on the stream, you want to keep your front arm straight is the best strategy to do this, and he won that challenge in Game Changer, so I trust his opinion on that one. So you could take it up with him if you don't like it. But we saw, if you're going from me being 5'6" to Nick, who's 6'8", me having to, even hand the rope up to him so it's a better place for him to do it, or him eventually doing that himself, is going to make it so the stack instantly falls. So it was interesting to see people's strategy in this one.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and, calling back to that challenge before where, maybe you said Paul and Ned struggled a little bit but were able to come through, that ended up being the difference maker, because they needed to beat Wayaya in that challenge before to be able to beat them in that last one, and since they just beat them just barely, and this last one again, they were the tribe that ended up winning immunity, and that's,
huge.
Such a huge reward for something to come down to such a little difference.
Absolutely.
In placement wise.
Yeah, I think someone that really shined on this challenge for me was Kyle. I think that he did really, really well. I actually don't think he ever dropped the stack once he was given it for Riaya. And at this point, it was pretty unlikely that he was going to catch Ned, who was the final member of the Wupan tribe. And it didn't necessarily matter because of the point differential at that point. But Kyle did not let it phase him. Really smoothly went through, placed the piece, came back. Slow and steady wins the race on this one. And we saw that both Wupan and the Orange tribe, we saw them both do that really, really well, with some of the other tribes trying to be like, I'm going to go quick, I'm going to catch up. And I think that is something that I also noticed from Declan during this challenge. You could tell that they were really beating themselves up about it. Coco knew that they had the opportunity to win if they won this challenge, and you could tell Declan wanted it so bad. So I was really feeling for them, because I think they wanted to perform better than they did in this one. So, but I think their tribe was really gracious about it, and they did end up still doing pretty well. They finished the challenge, which not every tribe did. So good for them. They still got a reward from it. That's awesome. So we saw Wapoon in first place, Wayaya in second, and then Coco in third, with Lonan and Tawa not quite finishing the challenge just based on time, because at this point the winner was already decided with Wapoon, so there was really no reason for any fourth and fifth place to finish. And there it is. But yeah, as Kelsey said, we saw Wapoon win at the end of the day. They were very excited, I think, and I expect maybe more of a kumbaya night for them back at camp. What do you think?
Oh my gosh, the benefit of not having to worry about going home immediately is incredible, but especially since it's nobody wants to be the first one.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I'd almost rather be the first one than the second one. At least if you're the first, you're kind of iconic. But anyway,
Stu.
Exactly, Stu. Love Stu. It is such a weight off their shoulders to be able to go to sleep and not have to actively be worrying about whose name to throw out there. Now, if they're smart, they're gonna be doing some, laying their groundwork for the day ahead, but they at least don't have to have that paranoia quite as much as those other groups do, which is probably going to lead to a more pleasant night, a better night's sleep,
yes, absolutely,
a better frame of mind to start the day tomorrow. So I can't imagine how much greater they are. I'm so sorry.
I think we need to finish up.
Yes. Well, let's talk just a little bit slightly about the groups and what we think.
Yes.
So slightly. Just vibes alone. Give me your vibes on.
Alone.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Orange.
Let me. All right. I'm gonna look at your phone because you already have it
Yeah.
out. I remember
do you think?
I checked in Kelsey, and I think I said this yesterday, but I just really liked her energy. I think that she was really, really sweet, and I think she's gonna do well. Kyle, I think, seemed to perform well generally in challenges today, so I think that he, depending on how long they think they're going to stay in these tribes, I think maybe being a good challenge competitor might protect him at the vote tomorrow, but I'm not sure. Nicole, I think, had really, really positive energy for her tribe. She was just like the spunkiest person I think out on the field.
Very spunky.
And
That's
I
like the
loved
best
that.
word
Yeah.
to describe her.
From her, Ryan, I also checked in and was really, really sweet. Again, very inquisitive. I feel like he's a really good communicator. At least he has been in the 3 times that I've seen him communicate with people. So I'm interested to know if that's a correct read or not, mostly. I know you know more than me, so I'm just giving you my little teeny thoughts. Well, I mean, I feel like you just always know things. Maybe she doesn't. I don't know. And then Kaylee, I think, is going to be like a secret challenge beast.
Yeah, she's a gamer.
I also think she's a gamer. So I don't know what the alliance structure is on that tribe, but I think if they were trying to like be, no, we got to snipe a target immediately, I think Kaylee is who I predict doing really, really well on that tribe, just based on my impression of her in the first couple days.
Yeah, I think they're going to do really, really well, but I almost fear that they give off that energy of, like, they're big threats, and they're going to have big targets on their back. So I think they're great, but a little worried that almost too great, like too obviously good, you know? And then we have Coco, Declan, Jay, Lee, KP, and Owen.
What do you
like
think
you
about
said,
Purple?
a lot of intensity there, which I absolutely love. You obviously do have Lee, who sticks out a little bit in terms of age, so it'll be interesting to see if she is able to overcome that. She obviously is a killer athlete and really performs her own in challenges, so I love that.
So fit.
Right, like her shirt said yesterday, it's not an excuse, because sometimes that is why an older person gets voted out, so it'll be interesting to see if she has that good social game to back up the physical game.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm interested to see too, on this one, Owen is a little bit younger as well. They were a big age gap. Owen was 21 with Lee being 50, and so I think that Owen, potentially with some other tribe mates who are more in their mid to late 20s, if Owen is able to kind of mind that gap from the opposite direction as well. Or
a little soft-spoken and sweet and kind, and so I'm really interested to see once the competition really ramps up tomorrow, if he's able to kind of get that killer instinct and kind of or maybe he'll kill him with kindness and they'll like him so much that they don't
want to get rid of him.
Yeah, amazing.
I'm also curious too, right? Owen is Irish, and so I'm wondering, is there kind of any cultural or societal not norm, I don't want to say barrier, but a norm that maybe he's abiding by in a lot of conversations in this, or is he going off of American Survivor, this is how I'm gonna play, I don't know, I'm
absolutely
interested.
It definitely affects
about
things, birds of a feather flock together, it's easier to connect with people that you have more shared experiences with, and he is somebody that, just due to simply being from another country, he's not going to have quite as many, but I also think that makes him kind of novel and exciting, and who wouldn't want to work with a guy with a cool accent?
Absolutely.
So I think, I have high hopes for him. I also think KP is somebody that is very much so sliding under the radar, but has a ton of potential to perform really, really well.
I'm so glad that you just said KP's name, because it reminded me about the barter at the end of the night.
Ooh,
so they had a little bit of a barter with all of the things that they won throughout the day, all of the rewards that they got during each of the individual challenges. Because if they won or got second place in a challenge, they got to pick off of a board, basically a tarp or some rice or whatever. And at the end of the day, John said, hey, if you guys want to barter at all, go for it. So basically, if you pick a pot and rice, but you never got flint, you could choose to switch that out maybe for some apples and oranges to a tribe that did have flint, because why do you need hard rice that's not cooked, So it was the yellow tribe who had a pot and rice, but I'm pretty sure they did not have flint, and they were trying to swap Coco, the purple tribe, for some of their jerky, because Coco did have flint. And they're standing there saying, oh, hey, we'll give you some of our rice if you give us like a little bit of the jerky from your bag. Like, we'd love to have some. And KP looks at them and goes, well, honestly, this is way more protein, and I don't think we want to do that, so no. And I said, no. I was like, KP, you're not wrong, girl. Like, don't trade for the rice. Like, you don't have to do that. But you can't. Don't be the one to say it. Don't be the one. And I was just like, it doesn't matter how kindly you say it. If you are the person to say, no, I'm going to deny you this food tonight, people are going to remember that. And it ended up, I think, being Declan and Luke, Luke M, were the ones, like, Luke M was the one really pushing the trade, like, hey, can we do this? And I think it was Declan that kind of just felt bad and was like, maybe we should give them a little bit of our jerky just for goodwill. So I'm really interested to see if that dynamic plays out at all, if we hear about it again, because KP was the one that was like, that doesn't really logistically make sense to us. No. And I was like, girl, no, don't say it that loud. But I have no idea if anyone's going to take it any type of way, but I know a few seasons ago we had a big a tarp gate, where they denied another tribe a tarp, that they made an extra one. It was this whole big thing, and it did end up playing into the rest of the season, like, heavily.
Yes, it's a game, and yes, it's an advantage to have way more supplies than the other team, but like, every single action in this game has social consequences.
Yes.
And when you potentially make a decision that's like denying some people a little bit of, the comfort, humanity, comfort, whatever, it can definitely end up having repercussions. So I'm interested to see if that, taints Coco as a whole, or if KP will get specific backlash for maybe being the voice of that decision, even if it wasn't her sole decision.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have talked about Lonan quite a bit, but I think one person that we quite haven't touched on is Leah. She was actually the last person that ended up getting picked today.
Oh, yeah.
And so, to be the last person picked is never fun in any situation ever. But then specifically to be the last person picked on the team that lost a lot, I'm sure that, she could have a little bit of worries. But at the same time, she did seem like somebody who kind of was always able to stay like kind of calm and confident. She never was quite in one of those hero roles per se, but always was just like performing well. And I think if you can be one of those people on a team that struggles, but you're able to kind of last through the worst of it, you end up typically can go pretty far.
Yeah, I agree. I think that she's playing a really, at least from my perspective on the challenge field, I feel like she's playing a really good middle of the row game right now, whereas, like, I agree, she didn't stand out in a hero role, but I also didn't see any instances where she felt like she was holding back the tribe in any challenges at all. In fact, I remember during during the Steady As You Go last challenge, she was really doing well. Like, she, I think, almost had it on her absolute first go in that challenge. She had the right technique right away, so I think that she performed pretty well today. Yeah. I would, in my very limited perspective, I'd be surprised to see her go from Lonan tomorrow.
Yeah, it's I think we were discussing on the car ride home, like, oh, maybe who didn't we mention, but like the thing is we don't mention your person, it's almost a great thing, right? Because it's like in Survivor, you don't want to stick out in a good way, especially or a bad way.
On the first night,
so
like,
it's like
float.
Leah is playing that classic, just like, shark in the water game of staying low, but I'm really ready for her to kind of make a big splash, like some
like
of
that
our fishies
fish
back there. Okay, almost done. Now we got
Yellow.
Tawa. Give me your quick thoughts on them.
All right, so we have Val, Kat, Chris, Ali, and Luke. We've talked a lot about Luke. I think a bit about Ali too. Something that really impressed me during one of the challenges was Ali, I think, only held the metal bars in the challenge. He just went back and forth. He would stand on the left side, then he'd stand on the right side, then left, then right. That man has arms of steel, as far as I'm concerned. I was very impressed by that, because that challenge takes a lot of mental and physical fortitude. And then, let's see. Honestly, I feel like am I blanking? I'm trying to think of what else from the Yellow Tribe today.
I think it's hard, us having one, just a whole nother contestant than we usually have, but two, the 5 tribes of 5, it is so much to visually intake that I kind of find myself, it's just like almost too much to hone in on any one person and have a lot of individual moments, because you're just trying to take in everything as a whole. And so I agree. Nothing as much sticks out to me about some of them, but I will say just oddly, specifically with Val and Kat, they're two people that had just such fun cast photos. They really had their personality shine through in them. And I thought that's like very small and not necessarily game related, but I think that is just like, you know, it could translate. If there's somebody that they're able to let their personality shine through in their cast photo, that tells me that they're going to let their personality shine through in the game. And that's hard. I think some people come into this game so guarded. It's like you don't want to do anything to make people want to vote you out, so then you almost kind of become like a shell of yourself in a way. So for the people that can come out here and really be their authentic and full selves, I think automatically have sometimes an advantage. And so I think specifically with Val and Kat, I'm excited to see how that plays out for them.
Yeah, for sure. And I think too, if you see larger personalities on your tribe, it even might be advantageous to kind of lean on those people and be like, yeah, you go, you play that hero role, you do those things, right? Because then you're putting yourself in a position to maybe be protected by that hero, but also, you know, be ready to, what is it? Someone, actually, it might have been, I think it might have been Kat in her intro video, her 30-second intro video. She said, I know the best time to stab somebody in the back is when you're giving them a hug. So one of them said that. You guys can look up and make sure I'm right on that. But I think Kat might have been the one to say that in her intro video, which is like, okay, flex. Love that. I'm into it. All right, final
Our
tribe.
last group, we have Wapoon, Paul, Ned, Ryan with an R, Griffin,
Luke with an R.
Luke with an R.
Yes. I think you did that earlier too. That's the one.
You know, it's very quite confusing because we have a Kelsey, we have a Chris, we have a Ryan. Those are all people
Those
on
are
production.
our friends' names.
And so, you know, it's a lot. It's been a day. But I think this is definitely the most interesting dynamic as far as just, you know, 4 guys, 1 girl. You know, you could look at that as a negative for Amelia in the sense that it could just be easier for the 4 men to connect. And, you know, sometimes women are perceived as physically weaker, and so they could target her for that. But I think what is really cool, since she's the only, you know, female presenting player, is that comes with so many specific strengths that none of those guys have. You know, there are just things that typically women are a little bit more specialized at, and so I'm really hoping that she can like have the opportunity to shine through tomorrow, because she's adorable. It's hard not to root for her.
Something that a little behind the scenes tidbit that I learned that I think is so funny is that Luke R. In one of his confessionals said that he wanted to play like Anthony DeMott, who was the winner of season 7, and so I'm really excited to see potentially that play out in this season, because I think so far he's off to a really good start. Like, Luke R is a tall guy, like he's a big dude, and so was Anthony in season 7. He was by far the tallest person on our tribe, and so seeing like how maybe potentially he might play down his physical threat prowess, like was he giving 100% today on the challenges, or was he, you know, trying to step out of the role or be maybe less communicative? Like, if he is looking to play that type of game, Anthony was definitely trying to kind of lower his threat level the entire game, so that people overlooked him despite his size. And so I'm curious to know if that is the intent of Luke's strategy there, or how it's going to play out for him the rest of the game, because I was surprised to find myself not thinking of him a ton today, because instantly when I saw like the cast videos, I was like, oh, that's going to be a guy to look out for. But then I was like, oh gosh, Luke, he's still here. And I think that's really good for a guy like him early in the game to kind of lower his threat level and be like, I'm just a cool guy here to hang out and have a good time with you all.
I feel that way a little bit with Ned as well. I'm just like, wait. Not in a bad way, but it's just like kind of in that Leo way of they're doing a really good job of playing that middle ground where, you know, they have Paul in their tribe, so they're not the ones always maybe sticking out so much. And you know, a lot of times that can be a good thing, but sometimes that also can mean that, you know, sometimes it's like you hide your strengths so well that then all of a sudden your tribe doesn't think you're an asset. And so it'll be very interesting. I think a good thing for Griffin, for the Griffin fans, I didn't hear or see anything of him, you know, kind of displaying that over maybe competitiveness that we saw a little bit yesterday, which was, you know, maybe a tad bit of a concern. And so, you know, I know sometimes you have a closer up look at the challenges. How did he do today?
I think he performed really well today. I remember on multiple occasions, I can't pinpoint the specific challenges exactly, but I remember multiple occasions I was like, oh, Griffin just did really well for his tribe. Like, I think he pulled his weight for sure today. And so I think that depending on, again, what happens tomorrow, hopefully Wupon is thinking about what they're going to be doing tomorrow, because in Survival Challenge, unless it's overnight, you've about 15 minutes in between challenge and tribal. Like, it's going to be a quick transition. We got 25 people to yeet out of here, right? So, like, or 23 or 22, depending on what final tribal is. So, we gotta get moving. So, if you're not talking about it right now, you're going to be shocked when you're probably the vote the next day.
If there is no plan, you're the plan.
Yes. So, I do think, though, it depends what their conversations, are about. If his challenge performance today maybe overcorrects that, like, assertiveness or, like, competitiveness that we saw yesterday, or if his tribe likes that, right? Because originally he was working with different people at that point in time when he was doing that.
And at the end of the day, the people that he's with maybe don't even know about the, they could have not even been involved in that. And so that could be a really, a great thing for him that, he might have been able to have that first day, like, jitters and whatnot, and it's not gonna hopefully come back to
maybe it's just something long forgotten.
We'll see.
Alrighty, big day today. A lot of things to talk about, so thanks for sticking with us if you made it this far. Will, do we have any comments from the stream, any questions that we should answer before we head out?
Yeah, we do. So let me scroll up here, because there was a lot that I wanted to go back to.
Oh, dang
classic
it.
Will.
Maybe we should start pausing in the middle and letting you say it.
You guys are on a roll. So, let's see.
While you're finding those, I will go ahead and say that every year we obviously run the challenge in Macomb, Illinois. There are a ton of local businesses and a lot of just organizations in general and companies that support us. We have a group of about 60 to 75 people here at the house every single day who need fed breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So thank you to the Sheckwitz family for hosting the entire event at your house. We love you guys so much. Thank you. And feeding us every day. But also thank you to a bunch of organizations who help feed us every day and donate food or donate money for us to get food for all of our volunteers who make this event happen. So that is Dairy Queen today. We all got, what are they called? Dilly bars? Dilly bars. It was my first Dilly bar. Delicious. Dunkin' Donuts donates coffee all the time. Jill Sosmo's is pizza that we got. Larry A's, Starbucks, Buffalo Wild Wings, Hy-Vee, Walmart, and Domino's. So a lot of agencies, a lot of groups bringing us some food. We really appreciate you. Thank you so much. We are all very hungry all the time. It's long days.
And I mean, they're preventing 60 people from becoming hangry. So
hangry in an event where it's not good to be hangry. Yeah. Anyways, Will,
yeah.
What do you have to say?
So a lot of love for the Lonin tribe despite their shortcomings. Anthony says he's already putting a request for a Lonin buff.
Good.
Dion chimed in saying, "Loan, never give up. Love from a Peasy."
Yeah. Anthony, I'll get you a buff.
Michael Sorrento says, "Happy 4th."
Yeah,
Survival
happy 4th,
Challenge, Prod. Thanks for your LRG service. Caitlin Dow also wishes us a happy 4th. To Kels, Sam, and the entire SC crew. Drew also says, "Hey Kelsey and Sam, I'm so bummed that I had to cancel my plan to be with you, but you're doing such a great job of keeping me up on things. Shout out to all of the SC10 castmates out there."
We'll tell them you say, "Hey Drew, thanks for tuning in, and so sorry you can't be here with us this year. We miss ya."
Yeah, and then Matthew McCarthy, shout out to Season 3 alumni. The depth of coverage this season has been fantastic. Thanks for keeping us so informed. And then,
you guys are giving us all the love. Thank you.
Yeah, Benjamin Snyder says, "Nice to see 25 players for the first time. This almost feels like a major sporting event." I'm rooting for Kyle and Jay. Can't wait to see the 2024 Cobster.
Oh gosh, who knows what the Cobster's going to look like this year. Doesn't Ian make them? Ian, the longer we go, the more unhinged Ian gets. So if he's the one making the Cobster, it's going to be vicious this year.
Yes,
to say the least.
Susan says, "Thanks for being so kind about Lay. Her best is definitely yet to come." And then Ant, of course, chimed in saying, "Wow, Luke knows ball."
Yeah.
I almost regret saying that already. Like, it's been 5 minutes since I said it, and I said maybe I shouldn't have brought that up.
But thank you so much for the love. It definitely is super appreciated. You know, we are all out here volunteering, and, you know, that's long days, and it's hard work, and it, you know, I think, you know, Oh, we do it for the fans. We really are doing it for them, obviously.
Yeah.
For them to have the same great experience that we all had. But
yeah,
it's
a vacation that doesn't really feel like a vacation most of
Yeah.
the time. We're all taking time off work to come out here and work arguably harder than we do at our day jobs. We've been here now, Kelsey, for 14 hours today.
Okay,
So
let's go
on that
home.
note, we're gonna leave actually. If you have any other pressing comments or questions or anything, maybe I'll come back and answer them tomorrow morning in the chat.
We'll be here all week.
We will be here all week, in fact. So thank you so much. We love you guys. We appreciate you. We'll see you bright and early tomorrow morning. Our first vote is at 8 a.m. Central. 8 a.m. Central, so that's 9 a.m. EST. Be here, Facebook Live, YouTube. Look at it, watch it, love it. We'll see you soon. Bye.